Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Samantha Lomow, welcome to the conversation today.
Hey, John. Great to be here.
It's a pleasure to be with you. Where are you joining us from?
I am in Providence, Rhode Island.
Oh, Rhode Island. I've never been. I've always wanted to go. Wonderful to have you joining us. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. Today, we're going to be talking about play at work and not just perhaps you're thinking about foosball tables, ping pong tables, that kind of play. We're talking about, play in terms of invigorating collaboration and doing really fun, creative work together, that kind of play, making work fun. We're going to unpack this and discuss this together. As we get started, I wanted to share Samantha's bio with everybody. Throughout her 25 plus year career across toys, entertainment, fashion, and retail industries, billion-dollar brand portfolios of prominent global companies, most recently Chief Commercial Officer at Tupperware. Prior to that, Samantha spent 20 years at Hasbro, rising to president of branded entertainment. And during that time, she helped prove Hasbro's growth blueprint, including leading the company's foray into entertainment with the first Transformers live action film. Samantha currently serves as the board member for Claire's, advising on their transition to an omni-channel model. As an experienced leader of transformation and change, Samantha brings a unique approach to leadership, one that has been inspired by a career in play. I love all of that. What a cool, excuse me, what a cool background. And I'm fascinated just by the Transformer stuff alone. But before we go further, anything you would like to highlight by way of your background or personal context?
No, thank you for the intro. You pretty much covered it. Really, just I had the fortune of learning to lead through an environment of play, and I think that's really helped shape me as a leader and helped inform a lot of the thinking that I've brought to other industries as I've moved beyond the toy industry.
Awesome. Very good. All right. So let's explore what you mean by play. I've worked in companies where they've had, all of the fun stuff. They've had, the basketball courts and the ping pong tables and the foosball tables, and they've, had the bright colors and they've had all that kind of stuff. That certainly can be fun. But what do you mean by play at work?
Yeah, so when I talk about play at work, I'm really talking about bringing play into the workplace and integrating it into work. So it's not what you think of foosball tables in the board, or in the game room at break time, or maybe, the old-fashioned trust falls. Like that's not what I'm talking about. I'm really kind of trying to recreate a almost metaphorical play space. So
Hmm.
it's really about bringing diverse people together. It's about embracing a philosophy that great ideas can come from anywhere. It's replicating a play space where you have that supportive place for taking risk, where you can have fun and you can just share ideas with one another. And play is almost like a killer app that allows you to do that. It sort of equalizes everything because when you're having fun, they let their guard down and they're much more willing to share what they're thinking and be communicating with others about how they might be able to solve a problem.
Yeah, I like that. The letting your guard down piece, I think, is really key. And if you think about like children playing at the playground, that's what first came to mind when you said that. Because you're just innocent and you're just free flowing. You're making up rules as you go. You're just having fun. And we can all reflect back to and remember what that was like, I think. And sometimes that's kind of elusive and we're not sure how to recreate that. But when we're really in the flow at work, it's really like that, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
and and
and
it's just energizing. It truly is fun.
I think if you think back to the times when in your life where you were the most free and the most able to dream up new ideas and be open to embracing new ideas, those activities that you were probably at play in those moments. And so it almost helps exactly what you're saying. It helps to think back to those times where you can actually bring some of that forward into your adult life. I think we forget to do that sometimes.
Yeah, well, absolutely, because we get, well, a couple things. One, we get stuck in the grind, right? We're just running from thing to thing to thing. I'm just thinking about this morning for myself. You get up, you're busy. I have a bunch of kids. I have 6 kids. I'm helping them get ready for school. I'm running them off to different, I have getting my kid to elementary school, my other kids to junior high. I have my older daughter has to take her car into the shop, so I have to get her, to pick her up from the shop to get her back home, and then I have to run to work for my first meeting, and then I have my next meeting, and like you're just running from thing to thing to thing, and trying to stay on time and not get behind, and things just get on top of you, and you're just trying to stay on top of your day and on top of your schedule and the grind of your day-to-day life. And it's hard in that environment
Yeah,
of just trying to even think about something like play. And if you're a manager or a leader and you're trying to put out fires every day, to even think about, having fun at work or playing. So that's one thing. The other
yeah,
thing is, as we grow up, isn't it kind of beaten out of us a little bit? we, we get more and more structured in our lives, and that creativity piece, that just like free flowing play piece, almost kind of just gets sucked out of us, like Dementors and Harry Potter. And so I think we need to proactively like learn how to like bring it back so that
totally.
we can experience it.
And that's exactly, I mean, what if I told you I had the perfect new hire for you and that person could learn things at an astonishing rate and was undaunted by new technology and was open to all new ideas and thinking?
That sounds
You'd
awesome.
say, yeah. Well, actually, then that person was all of us. We were all that person in our childhood. 5-year-old
Hmm.
us was exactly that person. And so what I'm trying to do is just tap into a little bit of that. And I usually, where I've done this through consulting or whether I've been inside organizations, it's about looking at what those big problems are that need to be solved, and then coming up with just subtle ways of sparking creativity in a bigger group, to help get people thinking big and solving problems. And a lot of the tools that I've sort of used to tap into that have come from my experience, in the industry of play.
Awesome. So let's talk more about like those strategies. Like how do we go about recreating an environment, where we can experience flow and play kind of on a regular basis. It's not always going to happen. We still have the grind, we still have deadlines, we still have, things that are stressful, and we still have to put out fires from time to time. But how do we start to create an environment where on a regular basis we can start to feel that?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I think that this is applicable everywhere right now because we are experiencing an extraordinary time of change, and all of our leadership is being tested to help our teams and lead our teams through change. It's interesting because I keep track of some of the studies that are done, and Gartner has been doing this study and coined this term transformation deficit.
Hmm.
So companies, every company is basically going through transformation. Anyone you talk to is experiencing it. But what's happened is people have started to have burnout because they're just sort of tired of having to drive change all the time. And so I think when you think about what it takes to make change happen, it really comes down to our ability to imagine the future together. And so that's really where I think play has a place in the workplace, and it can be taught as a way to help others embrace change by way of sparking creativity in one another. And again, that's really what I'm trying to do when I try to introduce these small moments of play at work. It starts with communication. And I think anyone from a leader in a leadership position can learn to do this. To bring creativity forward through collaboration, you've got to cultivate that kind of an environment. And it starts with asking questions. How else can we approach this problem? How else might we do that? How do we bring diverse people into a room who maybe wouldn't work together to solve that problem and have them get together to actually try to tackle the challenge outside of the traditional rigors and schedules you mentioned earlier that we're so tied down to. It's sort of breaking the rhythm a little bit, and trying to get some new thinking to the table.
Hmm. Yeah. I like the focus on, asking questions, being curious. That is what kids do. Like they're curious about everything. They're like literally from the time you're babies, you're like putting your mouth on and tasting everything, right? Because you're curious. To as your toddlers and your young children, you're touching everything. You're asking a gazillion questions about everything. You're just infinitely curious about everything. And over time, maybe we lose a little bit of that. But I think the most dynamic places, like if I'm in a really interesting relationship, if I'm in a really interesting workplace, it's a place where we can explore. It's a place where we can engage and ask questions. It's a place where we can push each other, our thinking, challenge the status quo. And like specifically in the workplace, I want to be pushing the envelope. I want to be challenging and stretching, and I want to constantly be in this like environment of continuous learning and growth, right? And that in and of itself is play.
Yeah.
That is like think back to kindergarten. That is you're learning so much in kindergarten, but you're literally playing all day in the class, right? Because that's how learning is structured. And in a learning culture in the workplace, work is play. Work is learning, work is play, work is iteration, it is experimentation, it is asking the question, it is hypothesizing, it is testing, it is iterating, right? And yeah, I think all of that
And I
is
think a
just
lot of
so compelling.
times, when you're faced with like a big challenge, it's our natural tendency to go back to what you know and
Sure.
just, cut costs, try to get more efficient, try to, just do up another business plan that's going to show kind of where you are in the current moment. And we forget about breaking the rules a little bit and taking a step back and, just saying, well, what if we did this, we threw it all upside down and tried to do it a totally different way? Now, I understand not every situation, you can't do that in every single situation, but I think if we make the time and create the space for it, you can plant seeds that will deliver over because of the culture that you're creating with that level of creativity and empowering people to solve problems in new ways. You're planting seeds that will then grow over long periods of time because it does affect culture overall.
Absolutely. One of the things I know you talk about is the imagination gap in most organizations. This relates back to what we've been talking about, but how do you start to fill that imagination gap?
Again, it really comes down to, you need to kind of find a way to create a shared vision. One of my favorite activities that I do with teams is to help envision the future. I get them to create a transformation story about their business, and I give them prompts, whether it's an obstacle or a certain challenge, and then I give them some drivers that they can are enablers that they can use in their story. And then I always give them a little magical power that helps make the transformation successful. And you'd be amazed. I mean, some of the stories and some of the sessions that I've held, while some of the ideas are really big and out there, there's always a few nuggets that allow you to get down to the nitty-gritty of like, again, it comes back to what does it take to make transformation happen? I did this at a sales meeting with over 200 field leaders when I was at Foot Locker. And, I think having that and tapping into that team to have them provide input around, what would it take to make changes in the stores? What would it take to bring in new customers? Like, what do we need to do? It allowed them to feel very engaged and vested in the solution. And it was a super creative way to tap into their insights because they're the first line with the customer. And I was just really blown away by the ideas that came forward and the stories that they were able to put together to help see themselves and what they could do to make change happen and drive success in the future.
Well, this has just been such a fun conversation. We've only really scratched the surface. There's so much more to say. And I mean, there's so much strategy that can go into this, and it's unique, I think, to every organization. Ultimately, every organizational leader will have to, you sit down with your team and talk about like what can this look like for us? What can this look like for our team? What can play look like for us? And have those conversations and create like proactively work towards creating that environment. I think everyone would love to work in a place like that. And so let's work towards it. It will be a lovely, empowering, energizing place to be. I would love to wake up every morning to go to either physically or virtually to work in a place like that with colleagues like that, right? Samantha, as we wrap up for today, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
Thank you, John. Yes, anyone can connect with me on LinkedIn, and I welcome anyone's the opportunity to talk to anybody about making change happen. One of my favorite questions that you can use on in your own work environments is, how else might we? Just even asking that question alone, how else can we deliver our own business mission? Those types of questions will get people in a playful state and help inspire the kind of creative environment that I'm driving for. So thanks for having me, John. This was a great conversation.
Thank you so much. I encourage the audience to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what Samantha could do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.